Jonathan Cross tweeted today, that's it, that he thinks skepticism is a negative term. He prefers to think of it as rational thought. Do you think your blogs/shows have given skepticism a new image?
I've answered this question often recently. Like, this always comes up at conferences and things, and I'm glad, because I think it's a good one. And I am 100% on board with using the word skeptic and giving it a positive image. I think that there's no coming up with a new word. You know, there are synonyms, but there's skeptic, it's a perfectly good word. And not only is it a good word, but it doesn't always have a negative connotation. I think a lot of skeptics assume it does. But in fact, there are groups out there that are trying to co-opt the word skeptic because it is such a good word. There are 9/11 truthers who call themselves skeptics. There are tons of, there are Holocaust deniers who call themselves skeptics, because it actually has a very good connotation in that I'm not going to just go along with the mainstream, I'm not going to bow to authority, I'm going to do my thing and use my brain. But yeah, so I always say, that's why I want Neil to come out of the closet and to be an out and proud skeptic, because I think it's important to show people that being a skeptic is actually an okay thing. You don't have to be a dick to be a skeptic.
The closet comparison is very good. I mean, embracing what you're called by others. I said a couple weeks ago, you don't get to pick your nickname.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get to pick your nickname, and if you do pick your nickname, it's kind of lame. You know, someone who names themselves, they call me, it's like, it's just lame. So
call me T-Bone.
Yeah, it's like,
no.
So it's like queer. You know, queer used to be a derogatory term, and it was embraced. And it's like, yeah, we're queer. Here you go. Deal with it. So yeah, there's skeptics. You know, deal with it. That's kind of what I think.
What you can pick, though, is how you explain it to someone when they come up to you and say, well, what is a skeptic? And I think a lot of times we do a bad job of that. You know, with some, and you have to know your audience, like with anything else. But, you know, a lot of people go right to the paranormal thing, and that turns some people off because it's like, oh, well, ghosts don't exist. Of course not. Why are you wasting your time on that? The way I pitch it is, and to be completely nerdy, and everybody I assume knows what a Venn diagram is. If you imagine a Venn diagram with two circles, and one circle says science education, and the second circle says consumer protection. The intersection of those two circles, in my opinion, is what skeptics do. If you think about all the topics that we deal with, they all relate to educating people more about science so that they don't waste their money on stupid stuff. That's what it boils down to. And if you pitch it that way to people, it makes a lot more sense to people, I find, than talking about Bigfoot or ghosts or homeopathy or whatever, depending on who you're talking to and what they think about those things. If you pitch it as science education and consumer protection, people say, well, I'm for both of those things. Those are both great things. And so that way you make skepticism a positive thing.
I would definitely think of again the idea that, you know, people are co-opting the word skeptic, and nobody would have actually heard of this, but there's a book just recently out called The Atheist Guide to Christmas, which you should all buy, in which I actually expound on this very subject. And you know, I say, if you can be sceptical about homeopathy, you know, why can't you be sceptical about man landing on the moon or something? You know, isn't that the same thing? And I often get asked this. And okay, when they think, what is it? It's all down to evidence, but you know, I think it does show that, as Rebecca said, that I was sort of looking at that in a negative way and thinking, you know, well, perhaps you do have to go around explaining what you mean by this form of skepticism, not that form. But it does show that, you know, if that word can be co-opted by people, then it is actually a good word.